Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Deebo got his deal. The San Francisco 49ers and Deebo Samuel agreed to a 3-year deal worth nearly $72 million with 58 guaranteed. He proved his value last season as a do-it-all player, becoming the first player in NFL history with 1,400 receiving yards and 300 rushing yards in a single season. For more context, he had the third most scrimmage yards in 2021 behind only Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp. Deebo had 14 total touchdowns, helping the 49ers reach the NFC Championship game. And as you take a look here at some of the contracts this offseason for the wide receiver class in 2019, Deebo Samuel was a second-round pick out of South Carolina. And, he's a star now. 3 years, nearly $72 million, 58 guaranteed for Deebo Samuel. Right in line here with DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin. 3-year deals right in the $70 million salary range. A.J. Brown was the one that got paid. 4 years, $100 million with the Philadelphia Eagles. But on this day, Deebo Samuel gets his deal done. All right, let's welcome in two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden here on CBS Sports HQ. Deebo gets his deal. We knew this was coming. What's your reaction to the number he agreed to with San Francisco?
Great number. Great number. I love seeing deals, Hakeem, where I see the player basically win. A 3-year extension, $70+ million, almost $60 million guaranteed. This is a huge deal. He waited. Of course, it took some time, but clearly they got the job done, especially when you look at the timing of their season, getting ready to get into the thick of things with training camp, preseason. He has been there with his teammates, but of course he hasn't participated in any team activities because he's been waiting on this huge deal. Deebo Samuel means a lot to this team's success offensively, especially with a young quarterback in Trey Lance. You want to have one of the best wide receivers in the game in uniform. So hopefully they can kind of get things flowing when it comes to the continuity and the chemistry with his new quarterback, because if Trey Lance is hoping to have a good year, he needs to throw a lot of passes to Deebo.
He does, and especially for fantasy managers, he needs to throw a ton of passes to Deebo as well. I remember going against Deebo last season, and he burned me a lot. He was on CBS Sports HQ, a friend of the program, and I'm happy for Deebo Samuel because he's a great player, and he proves his value week in and week out in the NFL. When you look at Deebo Samuel and what he does on the field, what does he do better than anybody in the National Football League?
We can just highlight the versatility. He is a wide receiver, but he's a football player first and foremost. And what I mean when I say that, he can do more things. He's not just a one-trick pony. He's a guy that can impact the game in so many different ways. As the second best running option on their team behind Elijah Mitchell. Clearly, he's the best pass catcher, best wide receiver. And one thing that kind of goes unnoticed or untalked about, Hakeem, when you mention Deebo, when you watch him play, he's not considered to be a burner. He's not considered to be a splash-like player. But if you look at his numbers, he averaged almost 20 yards per reception, 18 yards to be exact. Those are huge numbers when you talk about receiving yards and receiving opportunities for Deebo. So he's a splash player. He's a player that can turn a 6-yard opportunity into a 20, 30, or 40, or 50, and he has been able to showcase that throughout his professional career. So he's one of the more versatile offensive players that we've seen. We currently have the National Football League, and the way that Kyle Shanahan dials up heat specifically for Deebo is a thing of beauty. So you better believe he has some big-time plays in his arsenal for Deebo in this upcoming season.
Look, you remember kind of all of the drama, right, throughout the offseason? Like, there was talk that, hey, trade me if you're not going to sign me. And the 49ers like, we're not trading Deebo Samuel. Are you kidding me? So they come to an agreement here. What does this mean for both the player and the organization to get this done ahead of the season and not letting this linger into week 1 or even the preseason?
Well, number one, you take away any distractions that a holdout or potential contract situation could linger into. Number two, you really show the player that you really value them, and the player feels that he's been valued, he's appreciated based on them giving him the type of deal that he's been looking for. So now you can just get all the financial woes out of the way and just focus on the task at hand, which is coming together, establishing rhythm, team rhythm, offensive rhythm, and get ready for a heck of a season. So this was important for the San Francisco 49ers because no one would ever say, in my opinion, Hakeem, that Deebo was not deserving of a new deal. It wasn't like he felt like he deserved a new deal, and the consensus probably would say, no, not just yet. You're not that type of player. Everyone, if you root for Deebo, if you root for the San Francisco 49ers, or if you don't like either or, I think we would all say, and we should say, that Deebo was deserving of this deal. So knowing that and seeing them get this deal done it was a huge plus for San Francisco. Now they can just focus on football.
Well, now Trey Lance can look over to Deebo Samuel, and he can say, I'm going to rely on that guy. He can look over to George Kittle and go, I'm going to rely on that guy. But now having Deebo Samuel be able to use him out of the backfield, use him in the slot, because he can line up anywhere on the field, as you know, B-Mac. What does that mean for Trey Lance to be able to have that? We always talk about that security blanket, right? And Deebo Samuel provides that for Trey Lance as he's going to take over and be in his first year as a starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
It's huge, Hakeem, because most young quarterbacks, they're at their best when they have a reliable number one to rely on. Josh Allen became a better quarterback when Stephon Diggs got to Buffalo, right? Kyler Murray became a better quarterback when DeAndre Hopkins got to Arizona. I mean, those are things that are needed for the growth of young quarterbacks. Look at Money Pat Mahomes when he became the starting quarterback. Clearly, having the likes of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce helped him until he was able to showcase that he is that type of quarterback. So this was a huge plus for San Francisco, because now you have a second-year quarterback in Trey Lance, a very, very small sample size on the football field. But yes, he lacks experience, but he has experienced playmakers around him, especially at the pass-catching position when you look at Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So if you want to see Trey Lance be at his best, give him the tools, the resources that he needs to showcase that he can be the best player that they think he can be, and have an experienced go-getters at the pass-catching spots.
Deebo gets his deal, 3 years worth up to nearly $74 million. Man, Deebo is, I'm sure, happy, and the 49ers are pleased that they head into the season with one of their best players locked up. B-Mac, thanks. Appreciate the perspective. 49ers, first 2 weeks of the season, Bears and Seahawks, that's 2-0. The first really tough game at Denver, Sunday Night Football, followed by the Rams on Monday Night Football, who they lost to in the NFC Championship last year. Jimmy G led them to the NFC Championship game. We're still waiting word on whether or not he'll be traded by Week 1. But the story on Sunday for San Francisco, agreeing to a deal with Deebo Samuel. Again, 3 years worth up to $74.5 million, 58 guaranteed.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.